Goddamn right it's playoff baseball. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever the fuck you're watching this. This is another playoff edition of the RosinBaggers podcast, brought to you by Backyard Sports. Ty, you're back, buddy. We missed you. We've been looking forward to talking playoff baseball with you. How you been, man?
Oh, I'm sure you guys missed me just greatly last week on the podcast. I know Stove
I
was
did.
really looking
I did.
forward
He
to seeing my facial reactions when he was dissing the St. Louis Cardinals. You know, playoff baseball is just not the same without the St. Louis Cardinals gracing their presence with authority. It's unfortunate the way they lost to the Phillies, but my God, Philadelphia, other than today, playing some really hot baseball. Fell into a rough inning with the Padres. Padres pick up the W. It's October. We're talking baseball. We're talking the Final Four. Could we have a more blasé, boring-ass American League championship series than two teams that I cannot stand going head-to-head, squaring off?
Stove and I literally talked about that before the Tailgate Trash Talk podcast, which just aired a little bit ago. He asked me who I was pulling for, and I said, I'm fucking torn because there's been one team in my entire life. I literally, throughout my entire life, have hated one team. And I'm not even a Red Sox fan, but I have hated the New York Yankees my entire life until the Astros got busted for the craziest cheating scandal in maybe history. And to be honest, like, I said the same thing to Stove. Like, I used to be an Astros fan. I liked Bagwell and Biggio, and I liked watching the rivalry. I was young. The Braves were the only show on TV, and they played the Astros all the fucking time. Yeah, you're right. Blase, fucking ALCS. I'm not even interested, right? Like, I mean, I'm interested, but I try not to be.
Harrison Bader, Matt Carpenter, two former Cardinals, wearing
That's about all that's there,
all
right?
clean shaven.
Right.
I guess I got to pull for New York. I don't know. It's
He's
a
might
really
be gonna
bizarre
play on
universe.
something because Rizzo's over there too, buddy.
See?
See?
We've got synergy on the podcast today. Stove, how you doing, man?
You know, I'm doing great, bud. I'm doing great. I'm glad Ty can join us tonight. You know, I know why he says state softball was the reason for last week's absence, but really he just didn't want to talk about the playoffs and their fucking collapse. I mean, wow. I mean, I'm not going to dive into it because I did last week. You know, I did it while Ty wasn't here. That way he didn't have to dwell on it anymore. And, you know, those wounds were still fresh, so salty, you know? So as those wounds have become scabs this week, I don't want to tear those scabs off right now. I really don't. So let's just dive into some playoff baseball for the teams that are currently and still in playoff baseball.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about AL and LCS, and let's recap some of the series here. We've talked a little bit about kind of the ALCS. Let's start there. So Mariners, Astros, and it still felt like a year early, 2 years early, maybe for the Mariners, right? Because the Astros, for all of their flaws, all of their cheating and the scandals, they are battle tested in the playoffs. Okay. They have playoff mettle. They've got a very deep roster. They've got a very deep pitching staff. And I think that was what was on display against a young upstart Mariners team, who I think is going to be around for a long time. But I think that playoff mettle is kind of what propelled them in a wild LDS that we saw a lot of teams that had been playing baseball knock off or close to knock off, right? The Guardians had a chance against the Yankees. Ty, I want to get your thoughts on this Astros-Mariners series because I know you picked the Mariners to win. We talked about wanting the Mariners to win. I mentioned last week I had to pick with my AL pick with the Astros, but I wanted to be wrong about that series. Talk to me about that series, man.
Yeah, so a lot of points like you just hit on. I felt like it was a Seattle team that were probably destined for better things in 2023 and 2024 come October. You mentioned the playoff experience factor. The Stros look like in the end of the day, that they had the been there, done that mentality. But I was impressed because it wasn't like Seattle got to the show and had the deer in the headlights look and completely embarrassed themselves. I thought out of all four series combined in the DS series, minus the upsets that you had with Philadelphia over Atlanta, San Diego over LA, and even to a certain extent, you could say New York over Cleveland. The way Cleveland ended the season and was honestly playing better baseball than New York coming into that series. Despite all the wild topsy-turvy events that happened, I thought it was probably the best of the four series just in terms of overall baseball that was played. But, the freshness wears off. And at the end of the day, they just didn't have the depth to hang with a Houston team. Houston is very deep in late game situations, in clutch time, that they can go into that dugout and pull just about anybody and everybody up there, and anybody and everybody in their roster has had some sort of playoff experience or postseason experience. And they leaned on that heavily against a team that, had a great season. Certainly in Seattle, had something memorable that the fans will rally around and be rejuvenated um, in their baseball mentality moving forward. I just don't think that Seattle was quite ready for the stage. Give me a couple more arms in the offseason in Seattle. Really solidify that bullpen up. The rotation is going to be young. It's going to be exciting, and they got some flamethrowers certainly. But they were one or two pieces away. I thought from making a serious run at at American League crown. And again, you look back at the picks, and was it more with heart than it was with head? Absolutely. I had no business wanting to see another Houston American League Championship Series because same old story, same old song and dance. Been there, done that, seen this a million times. Give me a new script to read. I'm just fucking tired of it. But I thought Seattle showed up, and I think that they'll look back on this 2022 season as the turning point, as the catalyst for when they have 2 or 3 more good years of really good playoff baseball. They're going to look at 2022 and say that's when it started.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the one or two pieces, and I want to go back to game one of this series. Robbie Ray ends up in relief, and I think Munoz might have been the other guy they brought in. They just didn't have a guy that you just toss the ball to and say close the game out, right? That's one big thing. And you look at what Edwin Diaz was able to do in New York this year. He was a Mariner previously. A guy like that, I think, potentially has the ability to shut that game down. And I'm going to pose this question now off the back of that to you, Ty, first, and then I'm going to go over to Stove to get his thoughts on the question and the series. But Ty, if the Mariners are able to close out game one, how different does this series play out?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I think the better team won the series. At the end of the day, when you had the tail of the tape and you put both of those teams on paper and held them up against a light, I think the better team came through that series in Houston. I think maybe the more deserving team based on what they have built came through that series. Obviously, the complexion of things changed dramatically if Seattle's able to close out game one, but after they weren't. I mean, all of that momentum, in addition to all of the other factors that made Houston a little bit better baseball team heading into that series, roll two. I think at the end of the day, that was kind of the tail of the tape, and that helped write the story. If it flips around in the other way, I still think down the stretch, Houston wins that series. I think it goes 5, but it goes to the Stros.
Yeah, and I only have one counterpoint to that. You make good points. The better team won, right? I don't think anybody would disagree with that. The deeper, better, more talented team won. And there's a lot of positive going on in Seattle. I think potentially what may have transpired had Seattle won that game is we might have seen it go 5, and then in game 5 anything can go. But what we did see happen is a young Seattle team crushed by that loss. They were never able to kind of get over the hump. And we did see exciting games, right? In game 2 and 3, it wasn't a blowout. Houston, they didn't just lay down after losing game 1. Houston had to work to win games 2 and 3. But I think that the young, inexperienced Mariners team losing game 1 gave away games 2 and 3. Stove, your way.
No,
What are your thoughts on game 1 on that question? Would things have gone differently, and then the series as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. And you both hit the nail on the head. Ty, you mentioned the better team won out of that series. Absolutely. On paper, Houston is the better team. How many games did they win this season? Their depth, everything, the pitching, all that. Yes, Houston was the better team. Gary, you hit nail on the head with their youth and having that lead in the bottom of the 9th and then having your hearts just crushed with that walk-off win. As a veteran team, if that happened to Houston, Houston can come back from that.
Mm-hmm.
As a young team like the Mariners are, it's hard to get that mentality, to get that, that crushing loss out of your mind. I think it's always sitting there and we were so close. We had that one. We should have won it. Well, guess what? You fucking didn't. Okay. Learn from it. Move on to the next game. Just like every sport, you have to have a short-term memory when it comes to those types of things. And I think if Seattle won that game, yeah, obviously it's going – I think it could have gone game 4, game 5. And if it would have gone game 5, then it's anyone's ball game. But yeah, I mean, if it's that walk-off win in that type of fashion, just a crushing blow to Seattle as a whole. And so, yeah, you both had key points there. I agree with both of them. And like I said, if it would have went game 5, anything's possible. Then if Seattle does win, then are you saying the better team won? Yeah, better team won then because they outplayed them. Didn't happen that way. They got swept. And like Ty said, those games 2 and 3, they were close games. They weren't blowouts by any means. So to me, that's also saying that, okay, Seattle is not they're young, but mentality-wise, they're not as young as you would think they probably should be or could be. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Especially after that first game walk-off loss, you'd think that, okay, with their youth, crushing loss, games 2 and 3, they're going to be blowouts. They weren't. So they did have some dog in them, had that fight in them to make those next 2 games pretty close games, and could have gone either way there. But obviously, best team won.
I had that exact thought after that game 1 loss. I thought, oh man, we're going to see the Mariners kind of get boat raced here, but they didn't. They didn't, to their credit. All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk Guardians, Yankees, and I'm going to frame this a little bit because I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the decision, right? And I'm not talking about LeBron James and his stupid not 1, not 2, not 3 decision to go to Miami. I'm talking about Tito Francona's decision to not go with Shane Bieber in game 5 and go with a guy who had pitched against the Yankees twice this year and got absolutely fucking titted by the Yankees in game 5 here. And I understand the idea of maybe making it a bullpen game, but I want to hear your thoughts. Stove, I'm going to go your way first. Guardians, Yankees won the series, but 2, what the fuck was Tito doing in game 5?
I don't mind the decision, to be honest with you. I don't mind it. And if you look at matchups in all sports, Okay. Teams that usually win first couple matchups in the regular season and then play that third time, it goes the opposite direction.
That's an
So
interesting
I,
perspective.
I, I
Yeah.
so I don't mind the matchup at all. I really don't. I see, you know, why he did it. And it's one of those things too where
The players
you know
still have to play.
players still have to play. And Ty alluded to it just a little bit ago. Yankees have not been playing their best ball. And if you look at that series, the Yankees hit below 200 as a team.
Mm-hmm.
What won them the series? The long ball.
Yeah. Home
They
run.
had 9 home runs. But as a team, they hit below 200.
Yep.
So I don't mind that pitching matchup at all. I like it. So yeah.
Okay. Ty, what are your thoughts here?
You know, the average Joe baseball fan can look at that and say, well, that's what cost the Guardians an opportunity to further their postseason play. Um, the baseball fan in me and the guy that's been around Tito in October long enough says, who the fuck am I to question Tito for any decision he decides to make in his lineup, in his bullpen, in his clubhouse? If he's got a guy he wants to hand the rock to, there's a really damn good reason he wants to hand him the rock. I don't look at it so much as Savali getting rocked around in the opening inning by Giancarlo Stanton home run, followed up by a Judge home run, followed up by a Rizzo RBI. I look at it more, to me, it was fairly evident after the first inning yesterday afternoon that Cleveland had just straight out ran out of gas. I think the fuel tank was on E. I think they had a little life and a little excitement and a little buzz generated heading into what would have been 2 days ago, and Mother Nature intervenes, and then you have everybody sitting on their hands and knees. Yeah,
They had
2 times in a
games
row
postponed.
in New York, by the way. One which was called off 8.5 hours early for what ultimately resulted as sprinkles in the Big Apple. Nonetheless, it felt like they never got in gear yesterday against New York, and then at the end of the day, New York's trump card, their power card, is the power in their bats. And, for the first time in really the postseason, Aaron Judge showed up and had a home run at a clutch Aaron Judge time to get one. Stanton with his just line drive BB shot right over the right field wall.
Who hits balls that skim the top of the fence harder than Giancarlo Stanton?
I don't know. Maybe Jazz when he was healthy.
Maybe
He
yeah.
was healthy,
Electric bat.
but my God, and those are things that you have to be able to bounce back for, and you have to be able to account for. And the Cleveland's offense really was punchless yesterday against Nestor, and yeah, you're basically telling your staff after you pull Savali early in that game, we're going to make this a bullpen game. Offense has to step it up, and you got to be able to respond like a postseason team should. And that's okay. Starter got rocked around a little bit. Let's jump on them with the bats, and that just never happened. They never woke up. They never got going. And to me, it was more of it was less of a managerial decision on who you give the rock to, and more of a you got to face facts. And to me, Cleveland ran out of gas.
Yeah, those are all fair points. And Ty, you mentioned the whole "in Tito we trust," right? And we've talked about that on this show and mentioned it, when we picked Cleveland to win their wild card series, and we mentioned it potentially last week, right? That Tito's got the upper hand when it comes to playoff baseball, for sure. I looked at it with the postponement of the day before. How do you not go to your horse in a game 5, right? Like, how do you not go to Shane Bieber? And I don't know if Bieber behind the scenes said, like, hey, I'm not good to go today, right? But there's no reports of that. The only reports that came out was, yeah, if we win, he's going tomorrow. There was no like he's not ready. It's we're giving the ball to Savali. And Stove, I understand your point, right? When you play a team a couple of times and then in the playoffs you see them, but I think when it comes to baseball, it's a little different. And I think we saw that play out in this game with Savali just not being a good matchup against the Yankees. This isn't the Packers got swept by the Vikings in the regular season and beat them in the playoffs. This is baseball, and I just don't think it's a good matchup. I was questioning it before the game started, and then, of course, Giancarlo hits the 3-run home run in the first, and I'm like, son of a fucking bitch, god damn it, Savali, throw some fucking strikes here, right? Miss a bat, you fuck. And that does come back to the point of that Stove made. Players got to play, right? No matter what decision the manager makes, the players got to play, but it was disappointing. I think I was more disappointed because I really wanted the Guardians to win that game for a couple of reasons. I have a soft spot for the Guardians and Tito. I like Tito. And I hate the Yankees. So I wanted them to win that game.
Does a Savali start and a resounding win against a team that had his number give you a jolt of confidence and another arm that would have got you through the rest of the postseason had it went the other way?
100%. 100%. If Savali comes out and deals and shoves for 6 innings of 1-run baseball and the Guardians win 2-1 because the bullpen shuts it down the rest of the way, that's a huge, huge momentum boost. I just in a do or die game 5, can you let that creep into your decision making? I don't think so, right? And unless Bieber was not good that day, if he just said I can't go, I question not putting your horse out there. That's my big thing. Bieber's your horse. He's your Cy Young candidate. I don't know. That it had me questioning it before the game. Not that it was the only reason the Yankees won that game, because as you said, the bats were alive. They had no gas. But anyway, let's shift over to the NL. We've got some action going on in the Yankees-Astros game. Astros up 2-1. Fuck the cheating Astros. Who's at the went yard? Uriel just went yard.
Uriel.
Fucking A. All right, let's
sparkly ladies, the blue sparkles. What is going on?
Jesus, they got to cover up the microphones. Anyway, let's start with Phillies Braves, because this is an interesting series. In the NL is really the case that I'm going to use for a question that I'm going to ask you guys later, but Phillies knocked the Braves off in 4, and I think we all spent almost this entire series like Braves are going to come alive, right? Braves are going to start hitting the ball. Braves are going to start pitching well, but it never happened. Strider got rocked around a little bit. We hadn't seen him get hit around much this year. Max Fried wasn't the ace that we kind of expect him to be, and the Phillies rode hot bats from the wild card series into the LDS and knocked off the 100. They've knocked off 200 win teams en route to the NLCS. Ty, tell me what happened here.
Well,
yeah, Ty, let's hear
what happened was Atlanta just ran into an insanely hot baseball team. Philadelphia, and I've said this for years, and I will say this in all sports. Come to the postseason play, and you have a team that has been fighting for 3 weeks of a regular season, for 1 month of a baseball regular season, which is an eternity, and you have them fighting for their playoff lives. They're entering postseason play already in 6th gear, where you have an Atlanta and LA that is trying to get back into it. The mix of things. The Philadelphia bats, for one, Harper coming back and playing at Harper-like healthy levels is a juggernaut. He's probably the best player in the postseason right now out of the 4 teams that are remaining in
You
this
can't
game.
get him out when he's hitting like this.
No. No.
Jesus Christ.
And then you add the fact that Reese has finally figured out how to swing the bat again. That's an incredible punch in the lineup. What impressed me the most about Philly,
Kyle Schwarber hit a fucking thermo nuke last
I don't think
night.
it landed I don't think it landed yet. I think it's still in orbit.
flying. Oh
Neither
my
has the
God.
one that he hit against the Cardinals in 2015.
I really need a mute button on this side of the podcast. Jesus Christ, Stowe.
I got you, Ty.
Oh, let's just keep pouring salt in the wounds. It's fine. You know what I like about what Philly does the most, and it's not any of the key elements that we often watch as baseball fans. It's not their starting pitching. It's not the bullpen, and the bullpen's great with Eflin and Sir Anthony Dominguez coming in, and you have Nola doing what he's been able to do, and Wheeler's doing what he's been able to do. God damn it, Chas McCormick, really. Philly puts the ball in play. Philly lives by the rule. If you watch Philadelphia play this postseason, put the ball in play, good things are going to happen. I've seen them beat out more infield hits on what was a really good Atlanta infield. Extend innings. Keep giving yourself life. And they've been knocking in with 2-out hits. Clutch hitting against really good Atlanta pitching that was able to get them the win. What I like most about what Philly's been able to do right now, they're even in terms of depth chart, in terms of 1 through 9 on the lineup, in terms of your starting rotation. You could throw their manager. It's a feel-good story, sure. What I like about what Philly does is they just are old school, put the ball in play, good things are going to happen, and they were able to do that, extend some life in this series, and pick up the win against the defending World Series champions. And right now, it's a 1-1 NLCS with San Diego, and we'll preview it here in just a little bit. But I don't see a roadblock when you have a team that's literally doing all the little things right that you talk about in Pony League baseball all the way up, and they're executing that at a high level. That's tough to stop. It's a good postseason team that's going to be a really tough out for anybody.
Absolutely. Stove, what you got for me, bud?
Well, I know where you're going to head here with the question. And yes, scheduling does matter. The time off that Atlanta had and everything definitely played a factor into it. Strider coming back off the IL really for the first time since I want to say first part of September. Yeah. Definitely played a role in it as well. But you also have to give credit where credit's due. Yes. And like Ty said, they've been playing like their lives depended on it, since the start of, September, or even earlier than that.
Really into August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They've been playing playoff baseball since late August.
And
really.
So when you have a team like that and they're on a roll, it is hard for them to get stopped. It's like a freight train going 100 miles an hour. It takes it a while for that whole train to get stopped. And the only thing that can do that is time. And so it's one of those things where it was, everything aside from, I think, one series was a sweep. And so moving on to the NLDS there and everything was pretty quick for the Phillies. Whereas the Braves, they had some time off. They had about a week off, I believe, close to it, from the end of the regular season up until the time that they played the Phillies. They lost the first game, won the second game. And even that second game, it wasn't that victory that they got.
Wasn't definitive, right?
Wasn't definitive, yeah. And then obviously game 3 was a blowout.
Yeah.
And then obviously the last game you know, just
A couple dingers.
yeah. So yeah, hot team right there in Philly, rightfully so. And honestly, I mean, I think they can get the job done. Like Ty said, they've been putting the ball in play a lot, and there's no dying them. And you saw it in that first game against the Cardinals. And Ty, I'm sorry to bring him back up again. I really am, but
This
you
time,
saw,
this time he is.
yeah, this time I am. But you saw it that first game against the Cardinals. They were down 3-0, I believe, something like that in the top of the ninth. And
Against the guy who gave up 9 earned runs all season.
Yeah, and they just kept on fighting. They I can't even think of the word right now. They battled at the plate, got some walks, and then got some timely hits too. So
yeah, I've been talking with a buddy a lot about like the game of baseball in general, right? But way more so in the playoffs is about good pitching, good defense, and timely hitting. Because you can be the biggest boppers on the planet, but if you're not getting hits when guys are on base, if you're not hitting those home runs when guys are on base, solo home runs are the biggest rally. Like you're not starting a rally off of a solo home run. It's moving guys around, you're creating momentum, putting the ball in play, putting pressure on the defense. We always had the saying in college, like even hitting a home run with 2 guys on base, because we were still I'm an old guy. We were playing old school baseball back then. Hitting a home run was a rally killer when you had guys on base, because you were moving the carousel and suddenly the carousel's empty. That's what Philly's doing. They're getting timely hits. They're playing good defense, and their pitchers have turned it on because they've been playing clutch baseball for the last 6-8 weeks. Ty, I think you had a closing statement there on this.
The only other thing that I'll say about Philly that makes them a scary ass team here in the postseason is, other than timely hitting and all the things you just mentioned, when they're home, they're playing with 10 dudes.
Oh my god!
They're playing with 10 guys when they're in Philadelphia, because right now, and really in any sport, you don't want to go to Philly to have to play, especially in the postseason. But it's a city that's on fire with their sports right now because of the success
fan base too.
From the success that the Phillies have had, the tremendous start that the Eagles have got off to. And oh, by the way, it's a new beginning in hockey season because the Philadelphia Flyers have got underway and they've yet to get their dreams crushed yet. Just wait, Philly. It's coming.
It's coming.
No worries. But it's an extremely passionate fan base that's on fire right now. They haven't had a playoff team since 2011. So an already intense place to go play a baseball game is just magnified. And it's hard enough playing 9 guys when you're in postseason baseball, 9v9. When it's 9 on 10, forget about it. Philly's going to win a lot of games at home.
For sure. All right, let's finish up the LDS conversation before I start posing some questions here. Dodgers Padres, and we gave the Padres a lot of guff after the trade deadline because we praised the moves they made. They were aggressive. They're swinging for the fences. They went and got Soto, especially the big move, right? They added Josh Bell in that, who's been good for them in the playoffs. They added Brandon Drury, who's been good for them in the playoffs. But they did not play good baseball. From the trade deadline to the end of the season, they were just over 500 and kind of scuffled their way into the playoffs. But, man, they've flipped a switch. That talent's taken over. Manny Machado's hitting the ball all over the place. Juan Soto's getting some timely hits. He's still struggling a bit, but he's getting some timely hits. He's got a couple ribbies today. Drury is just unbelievable. Josh Bell's hitting home runs in the playoffs. The Padres were just, fuck Philly for sure. And a great, passionate fan base, but also the worst fan base in sports. But the Padres, like, where did this come from? They turned it on against what what should have been the most dominant 1-2 punch in baseball. And then they went and beat the 700 win Dodgers, who just roll guys out of that farm system. Ty, what's going on with the Padres, man? Knocking off the Dodgers here, the big heated rivalry, Southern California. What's going on with the Padres?
Guys, it's St. Louis baseball, and it makes me happy to watch. It's pitching and defense. It's straight up pitching and defense. Jurix and Profar out in the outfield is a glove and a half. Cronenworth might be one of the better defensive infielders that I've seen. His play sliding into the outfield on one knee and popping back up and gunning that runner down at first on the bang bang play yesterday was just sensational. And Blake Snell hasn't imploded yet, which is huge. Blake Snell had a horrible regular season for San Diego. His ERA had ballooned not just to like above average numbers for a good caliber pitcher. It was like on the brink of being a bad AAA pitcher ERA. He was not sharp in the regular season, and he's retooled it. Their bullpen has done not only serviceable work, but serviceable work to get the ball to Hader. And I think if anything in this series, like watching San Diego utilize Josh Hader in the ninth, just really, again, makes you scratch your head till you're bald with what the hell was Milwaukee thinking?
What were they doing?
I still can't believe you get a guy with ice in his veins.
And you're worried about $14 million in a multi-billion-dollar operation. Like, come on.
So Josh Hader shutting it down a couple times in that series, pitching doing just enough. And, if today's game is any consolation, their offense can get hot in spurts and get you enough insurance runs to get you up over the hump. But what I like most about watching San Diego play baseball, and what I liked most about watching this past series against the Dodgers, because there's only one way that you're going to beat LA with the tools that they have at their disposal, and that is just execute. And San Diego executed all the little things right, and their pitching and defense has been phenomenal. And small ball pitching and defense still has a place in this game, and San Diego's proven it.
Yeah, really does. Stove, talk to me, bud.
No, I'm with Aaron. I like Aaron's comment there. Taking down Goliath as the Dodgers. We also got to remember too, it's playoff baseball. Okay, your record's 0-0. So Padres did enough to get the job done. I know we all picked the Giants to win here. I'm glad they didn't. Deep down I didn't want them to. Because I'm with you guys on the Astros on winning the division and winning the championship series and this and that. For other reasons too, but tired of seeing the Dodgers constantly win and so it was nice to see the Padres, but like I said, it's postseason baseball. Record is 0-0. It doesn't matter, if you had 100 and some wins, your record is 0-0. Everything starts fresh. It's game one. It's game two. And you just go on about it like that. So I love it. And looking forward to that series between the Padres and the Phillies, obviously. And it's a 1-1 series right now. So, and like Ty said, no one likes going and playing in Philly. That's
yeah.
So
yeah, the next few are in Philly.
You know what else this series brings to light? Don't fucking give teams bulletin board material.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I'm talking way a long time ago. The comments that Dave Roberts made that I truly hope that he assigns to his ringtone and has to wake up to those every morning for his alarm clock until he wins a World Series. because he's made some boneheaded statements boasting about how good his baseball team was before the eggs had hatched.
Before a game had even been
Before
played.
a game had been played, before the eggs had been even laid in the nest, he was already hatching them. You don't give teams bulletin board material that's going to come back and bite you 9 times out of 10, and it did LA here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Big thing for me from this series is there's energy. There's energy with this Padres team. They've got some young pieces. They've got some veteran pieces. They've got some Latin flair, right? The way Latin players play the game, there's a lot of flair there with Manny Machado and Juan Soto. The way the fans receive Ha-Seong Kim is incredible. They chant his name when he comes to plate. Like, I can tell you, as somebody who lived in San Diego when they were just okay, that's not a baseball city normally. But you put a winner in a city. I'm talking to you, Oakland. I'm talking to you, Cincinnati. I'm talking to you, all these other young or small town markets that say, fans won't come out to the game. Look at the packed ass fucking stadium that the Padres have. Because I can tell you, I used to be able to buy tickets on game day for $8 to go watch the Padres in primo fucking seating, because nobody went to those games. Now they've got a winner on the field. The stands are packed, and there's a real energy in that stadium. Put a winner on the field, man. If you build it, they will come.
Did it look to you guys, and I'll just pose this question briefly, and it goes back to the trade deadline and how slow and shaky the wheels were on that bus when it took off, especially after the Soto deal. I didn't really feel until watching this past series against the Dodgers, at least it wasn't portrayed evident enough to me. Juan Soto did not look happy to be in San Diego, I thought, really until this last playoff series, when he really got energized and you could tell that something inside him had been rejuvenated and he's excited to be playing baseball again. I don't think he was happy up until this last postseason run.
I think he felt pressure. I think he felt pressure in Washington as well, because there was nothing else in Washington, and this team didn't win games unless he went 3 for 4 with a couple dingers. And I think once the trade happened, he wanted out of Washington. He also wanted the big deal to stay in. Like, he wanted one of two things, and Washington wasn't willing to give him the deal, so he wanted to go. But I also think that once that deal happens, I don't think you understand what that means until you get to your next place and you start to see, like, all of the media saying San Diego sold the farm for Juan Soto. San Diego traded 25 prospects for Juan Soto because they're trying to win a World Series. It's World Series or bust, right? They're all in for a World Series. Those headlines, whether you want to admit it or not, as a professional athlete, those headlines mean something. And I think that he was feeling the pressure. I think he started to feel a little more loose. And I think we're starting to see a better, more relaxed, more in control Juan Soto over the second half, I think, of last series and the start of this series. Stove, any dissenting thoughts? Am I way off base there?
No, I mean, you're right. Ty's right. I'm still under the impression he's still not happy. Like, just watching him today and everything, like, it's, he doesn't smile, anything like that. I mean, I know it's business and everything, but I mean, you see other guys smiling in the dugout, this and that, you just don't see that from him. So I still think that he's still not happy there.
It's very possible, for sure.
And that could change. Right. And that could change next year when Tatis gets back and everything, or possibly gets back. Who knows?
Yeah, who fucking knows him?
Picking up some hardware along the line is going to make a lot of guys' situations a lot better too. So,
yep. Yeah, that big metal trophy with all the pennants on it might make a little difference. All right, so I'm going to pose this question before we start talking LCS and the NL and AL, because we saw a very unique AL and NLDS. Is the playoff format flawed? And I'm going to pose it this way. The teams with the better record in other sports often benefit from rest. They get healthy. It's within their kind of schedule, especially the NFL. We talked about teams getting a bye. You get a week off. It feels like a bye week. Oh, Houston hit another dinger.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. But in baseball, probably more than any other sport, maybe hockey could have an argument in this same vein. Momentum means a lot. Playing meaningful innings, meaningful at bats, meaningful pitches keeps you in a rhythm. And we've talked about Philly, just they've been playing playoff baseball forever. Is the playoff format flawed, or are you okay with it? Ty, I'm going to start with you.
The format itself is fine. What I really, really, really want to see changed is what we are witnessing in current time. I want to make sure that when you allot these times for these series, that there is necessary weather make good dates available so that you don't have the NLCS running 2 games in front of the ALCS and things getting all out of whack in that sort, and putting some teams on shorter rest, putting some teams on longer rest. I would like for everything, if they can figure it out. There's got to be a simpler way to do this, but make every series, give every series an allotted X amount of time to get finished, and that way everyone's getting the same amount of rest, unless of course you have to play extra baseball games. But it takes the Mother Nature equation out of things a little bit and makes things, I think, a little bit more stable. I would just like to see inclement weather dates be made available within the postseason format. But as far as the postseason is concerned, and the matchups, and we talked a little bit about reseeding 2 weeks ago, I'm okay with it in its current form. I want to see it a couple more years, but I really want to figure out a way that we can get all these teams with equal rest.
Stove, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. And my stance on the playoff format and everything, as far as dates being played and this and that. There's way too many off days. They don't have that many off days in the regular season. You're basically giving them, if you play, you go from, say, first round, ALDS or whatever, the DS to the CS to the World Series, you probably have more off days in those 3 series than you do an entire month of baseball. And it's just, guys, you're playing since, say, March, April. Okay, you're into October, so you're basically almost 5 months of playing baseball in a routine. Now that routine gets fucked up because you're into the playoffs. Everybody is about routine. So that's what I would like them to figure out, or actually not figure out, just eliminate all of the days off, the travel days and everything else. Because, you don't do it in the regular season, you may get 1 day off a week. So why give them 2 to 3 days off in a week and a half? It just doesn't make sense to me. I get it for the dollars and everything, but come on. We're playing November baseball now.
I guess maybe I'm way off in left field here, but I don't want the 3, 4, 5, and 6 seed rewarded for finishing 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that's what it feels like in a lot of ways. A week off in baseball is fucking absurd, period. You mentioned off days, Stove. You want to talk about off days? Let's talk about the fact that the Braves, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Astros didn't play a game of baseball in about a whole week.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to field teams that have been playing playoff baseball for, we've already mentioned it, 6, 8 weeks, right? The wild card should be a one and done, period. They had it right when they went and expanded the wild card, and they fucked it away with a money grab. I don't want a 3-game series in the wild card. You're a wild card team. You have 1 game to move on. Period. Reseeding has to fucking happen. The 1 seed playing the 4 seed and the 2 seed playing the 6 seed is fucking unacceptable. Unacceptable. Division teams playing in the NLDS because you don't know how to fucking figure out your playoff format? Come on, guys. Like, this is simple fucking shit. Other leagues have already figured this out. All you have to do is follow that fucking format. Reseed. The 1 seed should not have to play a fucking higher seed than the 2 seed in the second round of the fucking playoffs. This isn't the NCAA tournament with 64 goddamn teams. 68 fucking teams. Whatever. This is such a flawed playoff format, in my opinion. If we're going to go this route, I'm going to put a proposal out here, and this is my second question to you guys. I'm going to put a proposal out, and I want to hear your thoughts. If we're going to stay this route with a 3-game NLD wildcard series that essentially makes division champions and the top 2 seeds from each division sit around for a week and get stale in a game that we've already all agreed that rhythm and momentum means something in baseball, then the NLDS has to be 7 games. Stove, what are your thoughts on that?
You know my thoughts, because I already thought that the DS was already a 7-game series when we were talking last week. So, yeah, no, if that's the case, though, you're still playing November baseball unless you eliminate days off.
Sure. I think we've already met the reality that Major League Baseball wants to play in November because of money, and they're not going to get away from that, right?
Okay, so if that's the case, I agree with you. Do the 7-game the DS, eliminate days off.
If Game 7 of the World Series is November 4th now, let's just make it November 7th. That's my stance. Ty, what are your thoughts?
You can have all of the above. I'm going to sound like a broken record, and I love broken records because it has my favorite songs on them, and it just keeps playing them on loop and loop and loop. No, cut 2 weeks of pitchers and catchers report. Cut 2 weeks of spring training bullshit baseball. That's essentially practice to make your 40-man roster when every general manager on the face of the earth should have a pretty good indication who's going to be on his starting 40-man roster on opening day. You don't need 4,000 spring practice games to figure that out and play split squads in middle of March when it's 14 degrees below zero still out here in the Midwest. Cut your pitchers and catchers report time, cut your spring training, extend your postseason out. And yeah, I'm all in favor of the current wild card format over the most recent wild card format, and only because I hated the one and done because of the ability for a team that would finish, and it happened, 25 games out of that first wild card spot. They were the second wild card team. They'd be 25 games back. They'd get into the postseason, and you're going to tell me that in one game, you're going to determine that team 25 games back is better than that team that finished 25 games ahead of you. No way in hell. Play a few more games. I'm with you. It does give the teams that are the top seed actually a disadvantage by coming in with all of that added rest, unless you're the Dodgers, in which case you use it to literally get everybody back healthy for the San Diego series. Still didn't matter. San Diego was found a way to beat you. Yeah, the NLDS and the ALDS, those 2 series should be 7. For God's sakes, hockey is 7, and it's fine. Goes into the championship series at 7, and it's fine, and everyone has a great time. I'm all in favor of expanding, the postseason to where the numbers to where they're at right now. I want to see a 3-game wild card. At least I want to see a 3-game wild card for a couple more years to find out whether or not I actually like it. Right now, I do. It's either that or you go back to your father's baseball. You go back to the 3 divisional winners plus just 1 wild card team, because postseason matters and only the elite should get in. If you're going to expand it, you have to make that DS series the 7-gamer for sure.
Yeah, I think we can come to a compromise here. I'm in favor of the one and done for the wild card, but I'm a cynicist when it comes to these fringe teams ending up in the playoffs, and you play for your life, and that's just what it is. But if we're going to stay 3 games, I think we are going to stay 3 games because there's money to be made. Let's go. Let's cut the season down then. Not just cut down on pitchers, catchers, not just cut down on spring training. Let's be radical and say regular season baseball is not the moneymaker. Let's go 145 games in a season, and let's expand the playoffs and say the wild card's 3 games, 7 games for the DS, 7 games for the CS, 7 games for the World Series. I don't know. Let's stop pretending like this isn't having a pretty drastic effect on the playoffs. I just, the wild card series really pissed me off, and then you got a week off for your top 2 seeds. I was honestly hoping that both the Yankees and Astros would lose so then I could really make my point, but they didn't. So I guess my point is only 50% correct.
I get it, but there's some aspects where it's better than it was. There's some aspects where they should have left it alone 10 years ago.
You should have left it alone 10 years ago.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you want more teams in to generate more revenue, then you're going to have to come to a compromise to figure out what is the best for our product on the field.
Yeah. Let's protect the product on the field for sure. All right, let's talk LCS. Let's start in the AL. I'm done bitching about the playoff format. Let's talk about what's actually happening now. We've got the Stros are up 4-1?
4-1.
4-1 right now on the Yankees in game 1. Stove, who you got winning this series, man?
Yankees. And if anyone disagrees here, go fuck yourself.
He says with such confidence.
Such confidence. Is it because you hate the Astros?
Yes.
That's who you want to win. Who do you think is going to win?
Yankees.
Ty, do you think the power bats of the Yankees are going to be able to overcome the Astros?
God, the star power's all there, isn't it? And if they all put it together, it's hard to bet against them. If they contribute the way they got the job done in the fashion in which they did yesterday afternoon against Cleveland, where you get the Stantonian blast, you get the Yankees broadcaster to say all rise for Aaron Judge, and then you add in a couple ribbies sprinkled in from Anthony Rizzo, it's hard to bet against that. Harrison Bader, now healthy, anchoring center field, gives them that defensive advantage, that defensive spark that maybe they didn't have. Plus, and I've mentioned this before, as Bader is a former Cardinal, just a clubhouse guy that gets everybody around him excited. The pitching, to me, half a dozen one way or the other. It's an equal pitching matchup. Bullpen-wise, I give the slight edge to the Houston Astros. Managerial-wise, they're even, Stevens. I just see the long ball coming into play in favor of New York more than I do a Yordan Alvarez. I think 1 through 9, New York has the better offense, and ultimately, when the dust settles, I think that's what will show in this best of 7. Obviously, clock's ticking here tonight. Plus, they're playing in Houston, so a little extra added advantage there for the Stros. But I just, when I'm comparing all of the tales of the tape here, the Bronx is going to be a hell of a lot more exciting place, buzzing with energy than a Houston is. I would give the slight edge to the New York Yankees, but I do think this one goes the distance. I think this one goes all 7.
I guess I'm on an island here. I just don't. I don't know that the Yankees lineup is.
Oh, you're picking the cheaters. How do you pick the cheaters, man?
I hate that I'm doing it.
Then
I
don't
do.
fucking do it.
I look.
No,
If
Gary,
we're picking who we
look,
think are going to
look,
win the
look.
series,
Gary,
who
look.
wants to win the
Gary,
series, I want
Gary.
them both to lose.
Okay, that's not what we're asking here, though.
You're asking who's going to win the series.
Okay, Gary, who are you picking?
The Astros.
God, I think he's more bent out of shape about this than Cardinals Cubs. Like we've had more civil arguments about Cubs than we've had about the Astros and the Yankees. I didn't know he was so passionately pissed off about the cheaters.
Look,
I mean,
I hate the
They've
Astros.
been cheating for a decade, man.
Gary, you know it's something serious when I removed you
I
from
know
the
you
podcast.
did. You removed me
I
from
haven't
the
even
screen.
removed Ty from the podcast. I just muted him.
Look, if we're talking about who's going to win the series, I'm going with the Astros. I don't believe in the Yankees pitching. I don't believe in their lineup. I think they've got 2 to 3 guys that can maybe get a hit at any given time. It's Aaron Judge and kind of 7 also Rans. It's not there for me. The Astros deeper lineup. I believe in their pitching staff more than the Yankees. I don't know that it's demonstrably better, but it's better in my opinion than the Yankees. I don't want the Astros to win. I wish both teams could just disappear and not play baseball anymore because I despise the Yankees and the Astros are the fucking Astros. But I think the Astros are going to win this series because I just think they're the better team.
Stove.
If
the Cardinals were playing the Houston Astros.
Cardinals.
Wow.
Yeah. No hesitation.
Zero hesitation. I thought there would be like at least a sigh of like, oh my God, you're making me decide this game. No, not even.
No.
Passionately hates Houston and everybody that plays Houston. Ladies and gentlemen, Big Stove.
I like it. All right, let's shift over to the NL where I'm going to get hated on a little less.
I don't know.
Phillies Padres. Ty, who you got winning this one?
This is a fun one. And it's got a lot of intriguing matchups for a lot of reasons that we've already mentioned here on the show. I love Nola versus Nola, and I love the fact that Nola's dad has a Phillies jersey and a Padres jersey, and will wear the Padres jersey over the Phillies jersey if Aaron's not pitching and Austin is starting at catcher. It's just great. That side story in and of itself is awesome. The whole Padres, let's go, 4-2. Epic comeback starts right now. It's a 2-out rally. The way the season happened for Philadelphia, the manager story is a feel-good story. A guy that's been around baseball for 57 years finally gets a shot to be a big league skipper. It's hard to turn your nose on those kind of stories. I do because it's the Philadelphia fan base, and the Philadelphia fan base is garbage. So there's a little less love for Philadelphia in me. I'm still a little bitter that San Diego was able to get Juan Soto and not St. Louis. So yeah, I'm still playing the role of the bitter Cardinals fan too. But this series, from a watchability standpoint, has all you want. Manny Machado, Juan Soto going up against Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, some guys that can just hit bombs and did. Plus the pitching staff for both has been rejuvenated here in September and October, especially for Philadelphia. I didn't think they had any starting pitching, and I honestly didn't think Nola had any life left in him at all until the dreaded wild card game, to which we do not speak because it was pure evil and trash. Was the first time that I had a glimpse that maybe this Nola guy can still throw a baseball. So
great. It wasn't trash.
He's had a just puked a little. Sorry. He's had a little bit of a rejuvenated career in Philadelphia. San Diego's starting pitching, as we mentioned, hasn't imploded yet. From a watchability standpoint, I love this, but I got to take the team that's hot right now. And listen, when you're playing roulette in Vegas and reds hit like 18 times, you don't be like, oh, let's go to black really quick. And no, you stay on red. You stay on those sevens on the craps table. Philly's hitting right now. All my chips are on Philly.
I like it. Stove?
I'm with Ty.
Yeah?
Yep.
Same reasons. Hot bats.
And Schwarber.
Sure.
And Castellanos.
And Schwarber.
Castellanos.
Yeah. Mostly Schwarber.
Nice. I'm on an island again.
There he is.
I'm on an island again. Look, if we're talking pitching, it's probably a wash, but I like you, Darvish, a little bit more than what the Phillies have.
Sure.
Didn't look good in his most recent outing, but I still think that he's a guy that can give you quality innings. I like the energy. I like what the Padres are bringing, and I like the tone of the team right now. They feel like a team that is starting to gel. Hey, Dottie. They feel like a team that is just playing better baseball than they were over the last 7-8 weeks of the season. It feels like, yeah, right? Who do you think is going to beat the Stros, right?
Yankees.
With the Padres, it's that lineup, it's the moves they made. The guys that they picked up are starting to hit in the playoffs. Drury's been great since the move, but he's continuing in the playoffs. Of all the moves they made, that being the quietest, but maybe the most valuable move of all, is pretty awesome. But Josh Bell has been hitting the ball pretty well. Got 2 dingers in the playoffs, hit another one tonight. It's just I think the Padres, I think this series goes 7, and I think the home field advantage for the Padres in game 7 is going to be the difference maker.
A side note.
Yes.
Does anybody know what the hell the deal is with Dusty Baker and the rubber gloves?
No.
Like,
I've seen it. I don't know what it is.
My first inclination was honestly,
Yes, I
he's
know
trying to cover up a Houston cheating scandal again. He's got rubber gloves because he's trying to cover up a Houston cheating scandal. I don't know what the deal is. It just looks weird.
Yeah, I've seen it. He had black ones on the few times I saw. Does he have black ones on again?
Yeah, he got black ones on tonight.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Yeah, I have to assume it's some
sweeping evidence under the rug.
Some sort of pitch signaling going on with the rubber gloves. All right, let's bring the show to a conclusion. Stove, what sort of closing comments you got for us tonight, man?
You're stupid in your pick with the Astros. Ty and I,
that's fair.
We're gonna ride with our Yankees beating the Stros and our Phillies beating the Padres.
That's fair. That's fair. Anybody who likes the Astros is an asshole.
That's true.
I don't like the Astros. I just think they're going to win.
No, but you picked them. So.
Hey, I'm an asshole. Ty?
2 of us are going to be really, really right at the end of this conclusion of the AL and NLCS. One of us is going to be really, really wrong.
Really, really wrong.
And 2 of us made some pretty good picks here tonight, despite the fact that we have reached the Final 4 in the Major League Baseball postseason. And despite the fact that, from my standpoint, there's not a lot to love here. In fact, when you took a look at the grand scheme and took a look at that entire postseason picture, these were probably the last 4 teams that I wanted to see remaining here playing October baseball, especially on the American League side. I had 0 love for either of these 2 franchises, and they both made their way out. So I've already given my reasons why I'm pissed off at Philly. Plus, their fan base is full of a bunch of arrogant assholes, and San Diego stole Soto, so fuck you. These are the last 4 teams in the world that I want to see, but these are 4 teams with some incredible power that we're going to be talking about for once-in-a-generational players. Players like Juan Soto and Manny Machado, and players like Bryce Harper, who is right now at the peak performance of his entire career in October in clutch time, and nobody's hitting hotter than him. On the American League side, Yordan Alvarez is a robot. I don't think he's human. I think he's literally an intergalactic creature who has been put on this earth to just smash the shit out of the baseball. And then on the other side, you've got, staying on Houston's side, you got a Justin Verlander, the ageless one, who continues and had another strong outing tonight until he didn't, and the wheels finally fell off the bus for V. But the guy just continues to get the job done. And then the Yankees, of course, with all of the star power that they have on the offensive side of the ball, there's monumental reasons to watch each and every playoff game here in the postseason. There is still going to be very entertaining baseball. This postseason in general has been very watchable. We haven't had a lot of runaways and a lot of like, oh my God, this game is boring, I'll turn it off. We haven't needed to, thanks to the competitiveness and I would say the parity within baseball here in 2022. It should be an exciting American League and National League Championship Series, unless they go back to New York and have to cancel for 7 more days because of snow or rain or whatever reason New Yorkers don't want to play baseball. I get it, whatever. It's fine. They just make a bunch of money on visiting fans that have to stay in the hotel for another couple of days. You see how New York's got all the money. Fantastic baseball yet to be played. Gary, you're an asshole for picking the Astros. Stove and I are going to be 2-0 next week.
Listen, I'm going to finish on this. Sometimes it's not about what you want. Sometimes it's about what you need. And what Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball fans need right now is the Astros to win and for everybody to be able to shit all over them when they lose the World